Today we're talking about education and training for orphan care workers. And we're moving along our flow here in this course. And in week 1, we talked about calling, and week 2, we started talking about preparation, and we decided that we are not going to finish preparation, but we're going to touch personnel and then begin process and then come back and finish preparation so that we start getting you exposed to everything that is important, and then you would be able to then build the whole process and get you to the process of creating your nonprofit organization. So we are talking today on preparation right here. On my pen, I didn't get the color I was looking for. We're talking about preparation, and the topic again is education and training for orphan care workers. Now I'm going to take you to my blog and show you something real quickly, which I wasn't planning on showing, because I get hundreds of questions. I get people come to my website asking all the time, what kind of training do I need to go into orphan care? Let me look at a question right here that was recently asked by this young woman, Moriah. Moriah said, "Hi, I am very passionate about orphans, and I hope to one day work in an orphanage and hopefully start my own. I will be going into my senior year of high school soon, and I am wondering what college degree, if any, is good to have or needed for working in an orphanage and starting one." People ask me this all the time, and if you're going into orphan care, it's important to be able to know the kind of training that you need to be effective in orphan care. And that's what we're going to be covering here today. I think it's a very important subject to talk about, to cover, and let's get right into the meat of it. Now, at Austin Bible Institute, we have designed, based on our research, a training curriculum that is based on roles and competencies. And I'm going to explain. So we've seen that there are about 12 roles. You can see here role 1 to 12. You can see here role 1 to 12. I'm going to change the color of my pen 1 second. There's role 1 right here to 12, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 12. We see that there are about 12 roles that an orphan care worker needs to fill, an effective orphan care worker here needs to fill. And so we've designed courses to be able to equip students in each of these areas of competencies and skills. We call them roles. That to be an effective orphan care worker, for example, let's start with number 1, you have to be the prayer warrior and peacemaker. You have to be a prayer warrior and peacemaker, because orphan care is spiritual warfare. Please get this straight. Orphan care is spiritual warfare. And if you live in America, Europe, Africa, if you live anywhere in the world and you are a Christian who hasn't really gone through some training and walked with the Lord and have been good at prayer, you need to learn it, because you're going into a war zone, and the war is spiritual warfare, and prayer is key. Peacemaking is crucial. It's crucial. And the trouble is that as Christians, even when we go through school, we never get to be taught peacemaking and conflict resolution. Yet, every day we have to deal with people. We have conflict in relationships between husband and spouse, husband and parents and children, fathers, and we have with teachers, we have with pretty much everybody, because relationships yield conflict just by the nature of sin that we have, that exists in the world. As you have relationships with people, conflict ensues. When you work in the area of orphan care, where there are children that are very wounded and traumatized. Your ability to be effective in peacemaking and conflict resolution all of a sudden goes much higher. And working as a leader, because if you're going to start an orphan care organization and go into it, you're going to be a leader of some sort, a servant leader. And so peacemaking becomes very crucial. The second role is that to be an effective orphan care worker, you are going to be a disciple maker. You're going to be a disciple maker and a Bible teacher. And this goes under this sub area of spiritual formation. Not only are you going to need to be fully discipled yourself, but you're going to be discipled and released so that you become a disciple maker and a teacher. Just like the apostles of Jesus we see in Matthew 28 verse 18 to 20, like we've talked about in the past. Jesus had trained them for 2 to 3 years and was releasing them to go and be disciple makers. You're going to have to be that. But of course, you cannot be a disciple maker unless you yourself are fully discipled. Please don't take this in a way that you think this is rude or unloving. Most people that I have seen who want to go into orphan care, they are not ready from a discipleship point of view. It'll take at least several years for them to grow and become ready. But many of us, we discount the importance of sitting and growing and really being fully developed disciples of Jesus. We want to rush and go into the world to serve. I already covered this in a different portion. It is not smart to do that. Okay. The third role is the role of a role model. Okay, it's the role of a role model, a spiritually mature role model. And Paul keeps talking about this in his writing. He says, be imitators of me as I am an imitator of Jesus. You're going to be a person that many children God loves and many other people will have to imitate. There's no way around it. And so this is an important role that we equip people to be able to fill. And in the next section of this lesson, before we stop this video, we're going to go next and talk about the different courses that meet these roles. For example, we're going to come here and we'll look at different courses that satisfy each of these roles. Okay, so you need to be spiritually mature and be the kind of role model. Then role number 4. So we've talked about this and this role. Role number 4 is the role of providing a family, being an effective parent. And there are several courses that help do this. Now, here I emphasize and encourage that to go into orphan care because orphans don't have parents. To go into orphan care, it's not a requirement, but it's highly encouraged that you and your spouse be together if you're married, that you be doing this together so that you can provide that family that they need. Now, so provide parenting, being a good parent, being equipped to be a very competent parent of orphans is very important. Then there is just effective principles and models of orphan care to be able to care for them using best practices. We have several courses that teach that. We have a course that teaches on child rearing and so satisfy this role and competency requirement. The fifth one is that to be an effective orphan care worker, you are going to be their healthcare manager and their nurse. That means that you are going to be in charge of making sure that they are getting the kind of healthcare they deserve. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you, something that I've seen just being in an orphanage. For example, the last time I was there, I was up on the I was down on in the first floor, and then I was talking to some children, and then I was called up to go, and one of the kids was having a seizure and just foaming at the mouth and just there. If put yourself in that situation, what is the first thing you should do? What are you going to do to help that child? Okay. Now, you're going to have children that have been in situations where they didn't have prenatal care. They didn't have any vaccinations during their childhood period. What you're going to be their health advocate. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to do everything in the world by yourself in that orphanage, but when you are the leader, or when you're a key person, you're going to know all these things to be able to step in and do it by yourself, because many times you will be the only person that they have. You have to be trained fully to be able to handle them. Then when there are more people who can handle them, then you can delegate, and then supervise. Or you can then focus on one area and serve there on a daily basis, but have knowledge to be able to fill the other areas. So that's important. You need to know basic things like what do you do when a child has a fever, and what is a fever? There are many things that the healthcare course is going to cover and just equip you to be able to fulfill this role. Now, many of the orphans that came, I'll dare to say all of them, but because all is not a very good word to use, it's too absolute. The overwhelming majority, I would say, of orphans have severe psychological trauma. Psychosocial care is very important. You're going to need to be their counselor and be able to coordinate the kind of care that they need in that area. Some of them might need counseling with somebody who's more expert than you, but being their overall caregiver, you are going to need to be competent in this area to a fair degree so that you can understand and be able to know which child needs help and what you need to do. Another area which is very important is nutrition. You are going to be their nutritionist, okay? So the way, again, these are arranged is they're arranged around roles that you put yourself in here. The effective orphan care worker, you are going to be able to fulfill these roles. You're going to be their nutritionist. You don't have to have a master's or PhD in nutrition. You just need to be competent to be able to handle the basic needs that they have, and then know what to consult a nutritionist on. And you need to be able to know that. And there's a course for that also. There's a course for that. The truth is that most orphans come very malnourished, okay? Most orphans come very malnourished. I was reading a statistic on the UNICEF website. I think I'm going to check that out right now and show you. And it says something about that over 50% of deaths in children have something to do with malnutrition. UNICEF.org. Let's check it out right here. UNICEF.org. Okay, let's check. There was a statistics. Okay, this is it right here. It says, if you can see on the screen, nearly half of all deaths in children under age 5 are attributable to undernutrition. This translates into the unnecessary loss of about 3 million young lives every year. Now, ask yourself this question. If UNICEF is saying this, that half of all deaths worldwide in children under 5 are attributable to undernutrition, then how about children who are orphans? Is it higher? Of course it's higher. It's higher. Can you imagine that? In my experience, most orphans are malnourished. Like, a lot of them are severely malnourished. I could tell you cases after cases. Right now at our orphanage, we have a child who came in, Hope, who came in because she was severely malnourished. She has kwashiorkor. Like, that's a really bad deficiency. Like, she's gone really bad and she could die from that. We've seen children die from malnutrition now. So being ready to be able to handle this is crucial. Now, let me tell you a case. There's a child that came into our orphanage several years ago, and our staff did their best. They loved this child and started feeding the child. The child was malnourished, kwashiorkor, and they didn't understand how to go about taking care of a malnourished child. And so they just fed the child the child started gaining weight. You realize that our bones are made up of protein for the most part. There are salts also, but proteins. Okay. Now, when they started feeding Genesis started gaining weight. Okay, started gaining weight, and then because he was gaining weight, his bones were not strong because of the malnutrition. The deficiency wasn't replaced. So what happened was that his bones were weak and they couldn't sustain the weight he was gaining. It's almost like you're putting something heavy on something rubbery. What happens? It bends. So he now started having legs that were bowed, and they continued to be bowed and bowed until the guy's legs was bleeding and he couldn't go to school. He was pulled out, stayed home, and it took a lot of money to be able to take him and go do a specialized surgery to break his bones, straighten them, put them in cast to correct that. That's something that nutrition would have saved. No understanding how to take care of a child who is malnourished would have prevented that. Genesis wouldn't have had to go through that and almost had his life threatened because somebody didn't know. Now, is this happening in orphanages and homes of poor children all over the world? Yes. Yes, yes. And if you're going to be an advocate for them, it's important to be able to be trained and know how to handle these things. And this is not complicated. It's not rocket science. It's something that when you're trained, you'll know how to be sensitive and get the help you need. But if you are ignorant, like the staff that were working for us years ago were, then you would not know it. And the reason I can speak and identify this is because I'm a physician. I could go back and see that. But there are many situations where this happens and people don't even know why it's happening, and then children get hurt all the time. Okay? So education, you're going to be the education director. You're going to be what could be called an instructional coordinator, which means that whether they're going to a local school to get trained there, go through grade school there, you are going to be the one working with each of the teachers as their representative to make sure that they're doing well in school. And so we have an education course here that prepares you to be able to have an understanding of how children grow and learn so that you can be more effective in that area. You're also going to be their fundraiser. You're going to be the person raising funds. Now, you may bring somebody on board that has more skill. Great. But because you're one of the key leaders, you are the one who's going to have to step in and do it if there's nobody else. And so there are several courses. There are 2 courses here that equip you so that you will be effective at doing that. But we don't encourage you to be able to be full-time doing all these things, especially if there's much work and you have other staff that you should then delegate. But before you delegate, you understand how it works. You will need to be a financial manager, and there's a course for that, because budgeting and raising funds is good, but budgeting, planning, and reporting is crucial also, and managing money. So marketing, especially in the online world today, is important. Then you're going to be the leader, entrepreneur, and community developer. And there are several courses that will equip you to be able to do this. Now, Austin Bible Institute did this research and came up with this robust curriculum. It is, again, it's based on roles and competencies. Okay, it's based on roles and competencies and skills that each person that is in orphan care needs to have. And it is the most comprehensive training that we have seen. And like I've said before, you could check for yourself as of this lesson. This is 2015 that I'm recording this lesson. Austin Bible Institute is the only college in the world that offers comprehensive training in orphan care. Okay, specifically in orphan care. Now, look, we're leaving those roles now. So this course is basically equip you to handle each of these roles. So now we're going to group them. You see, role number 1, 2, and 3. There's this group of courses. This group right here of courses prepares you to be able to do that. So here we have spiritual formation history, which really equips you to become a mature Christian, and you become, and it includes a lot of equipping on prayer and the spiritual disciplines. Then Christian revivals, also equipping you in prayer and revival, peacemaking and conflict resolution. We talked about that. Experiencing God, you would learn to really walk with God and hear God. You'd be able to identify calling and determine the will of God and things like that. And that's important not only for you, but because you're going to be the one helping the children and helping them be able to identify and develop this in their own lives. This is something that is crucial. Your training, your effective training, is a matter of life and death for children. Okay, your ability to be competent. It's like if you're a doctor in a hospital, your ability to be an effective doctor means life and death for patients. When you are there, lives could be saved or lives could be destroyed based on your competency, how well you play your role. And taking time to equip yourself is important. Hermeneutics is a class on Bible study methods that is awesome. It's going to equip you to become more effective at studying the Word of God, interpreting it and understanding it and applying it. Following the Holy Spirit into disciple making is going to equip you to become a Holy Spirit dependent disciple maker in both a spiritual and vocational sense. New Testament survey and Old Testament survey, they cover the entire Bible and help you to become very, very, very equipped. Many people that we have come really need all these courses to be able to equip them to be solid, okay? Systematic theology 1 and 2 covers systematic theology. It studies, it takes the Bible and theology, and it looks at it from topic to topic to topic, and it covers the entire thing in topics, okay? Now, life and godliness is another spiritual formation class. Then we go here, so that's these classes, these 11 classes cover the first 3, role 1 to 3, okay? Role 1 to 3 is what those cover. So role 1 to 3 are grouped together in terms of courses. Then role 4 is these courses equip you: child rearing principles and applications, starting an orphanage, which is this starting an orphanage, of course, is this class that I am making this lesson for right now. It equips you to prepare to an environment for orphans. Then effective care 1 and 2. Then practicum. This is the internship part of really living in an orphan care setting and learning how to care for orphans in an effective way that is based on best practices. Okay. Now the role number 5 is this one, of course. That's what's familiar, is healthcare. There's the healthcare course that I already talked about. Then role number 6 has this many courses: child growth and development, introduction to psychology, cultural anthropology, and spiritual counseling. Will equip you to become effective in that area. And role number 7, we talked about nutrition. Then we said you're going to be the education director of the instructional coordinator. This course gets you started on that path. This course has started at ABI. Does that. Then fundraising, there's another course on fundraising that is not showing here, that is on personal fundraising. This one is on organizational fundraising, organizational fundraising, and it helps you be able to raise funds for organizations at the level of organization. But it's a personal fundraising course. And the beautiful thing with ABI is that even though I'm showing you this a lot of research has been done, and this is most of this are going to stay. When we see that the group of students that are coming, that they're needing a certain course to help them develop more fully, we can augment these courses. So these are we've done a lot of research, and these are going to stay, but we can improve them, and it does not negatively impact the student at all. It doesn't negatively impact. It doesn't change anything. We keep staying up to date. If you want to see it like that, that way we provide the best training for people to go out and provide the best care at the time. Then there's financial management course for row 10. Then internet communication. This is how you get the word out in an online setting, and and also introduces you to different ways to get the word out in non-online setting, marketing and PR. And then there's row 12, and you can always go back and check what these roles really are. Row 12 is leadership, entrepreneurship, community development, and we have these courses that will equip you to do that. These are miscellaneous courses that will help you grow spiritually. For example, all these courses will help you grow spiritually and will contribute to here, but they're not required. Okay. So that's how Austin Bible Institute can really equip you to go out and serve orphans. And this is our way of really providing comprehensive training, the most comprehensive we've seen, by focusing on roles and competencies that each person who's going into orphan care needs to have. So I encourage you, after this Start an Orphanage course, to really investigate and prayerfully consider. I pray you will take different courses, that you will sit down and look at all these roles and equip yourself so that when you go out, you can play all these 12 roles and competencies effectively, that you can be the prayer warrior and peacemaker, the disciple maker, the Bible teacher. You could be the spiritual role model for them. You could be the family and the parent that they need. You could provide the effective orphan care that they need. That you could be their healthcare manager, their counselor, their nutritionist, their educational director, their fundraiser, financial manager, marketer, and leader, entrepreneur, and community developer. That you could do these things, and when you do that, you glorify God.